Thanks for joining, everyone. This is a webinar put on by Data and Deleon Trade to give you, our take on best practice for process and tools to help you get the right data into CAPE, process your refunds, and kind of manage that process. And Cindy will be delivering the webinar. I'm just here to make sure they're all good and everything's working okay. IT guy for today. But just by way of background, my name's Tarek. I'm the CEO at Byte. My background is from immigration and customs enforcement. I ended my career as the chief data architect at the agency, and then started a data science company where Anne and I met, investigating transnational criminal organizations for export control. Anne and I started Byte Data 3 years ago. Anne is the chief data officer. She manages our data profile, data structure, and data management and data architecture at Byte. And we'll be walking through the Byte tool. Before we do that, though, we have Ms. Cindy Deleon, founder and managing director at Deleon Trade. Deleon Trade is a company focused on delivering strategic trade compliance solutions for brands and partners navigating today's very complex global trade marketplace. Before joining Deleon Trade, Cindy served as an auditor and assistant field director for U.S. Customs and Border Protection's Regulatory Audit Division for 12 years. While working at at CBP, she conducted and supervised multiple audits, fraud investigations, and free trade agreement reviews. We're very thrilled and appreciative for her time today. And Cindy, without further ado, we'll pass over to you to kick us off.
Thank you so much. All right, can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, great. I'm going to put this in presentation mode.
Cindy, sorry, one quick admin thing before you begin. Folks, we
Sure.
do have a Q&A tab on the bottom of your screen. If you have any questions, any answers you need, please log them over there, and I'll read them out at a good time during the webinar.
Thank you for that. Before you start typing any questions, though, audience, please give me 1 second to ask you for a small favor. So, thank you for that introduction. Thank you for the opportunity to come and join you guys today and all you're doing at Byte. Super excited. I want to just put this disclaimer up here. There's a lot going on in trade right now. There's a lot of complexity and a lot of strategy. And so this presentation is really for informational and educational purposes only. It does not constitute legal, financial, tax, or professional advice. And at the last bullet, you'll see that by attending this webinar, you acknowledge that I am not liable for any direct reliance on this. I really like to give people things to think about. So what I want to first do is just talk a little bit about the CAPE tool. And here is where I ask you with your questions. Guys, I was on a CBP webinar late last week about CAPE, and they had so many people in the trade community asking the most basic, below basic questions. And I was like, we all need to kind of just do our due diligence and read a little bit. And so I know there are a lot of resources out here, but for those of you who haven't had a chance and you feel like the sense of anxiety because of it's so much information, read these things here. And you'll get these slides, and I'll circulate these slides to you after the presentation. Please take a moment. There's links in here, read through. There's even CSMS messages that came out today. So please make sure to read through this information, and a lot of your questions are going to be answered there. And I want you to have that as reference materials. I'm going to go through a lot of the most pertinent information here, and I only have like, let's see, I only have like 14 slides, and some of them go super quick. Then we're going to go over to you guys and do your demo, right, Anne, and then take Q&A at the end. Does that sound good?
Yeah, exactly. Yep, perfect.
Okay. Okay, so perfect. So most of you should know what CAPE is. I'm going to go over some of the nuances in answering a lot of the questions people are asking. So here, CAPE is this portal within ACE that allows you, instead of asking for refunds on an entry by entry basis, like you would in a PSC context, you upload this comma separated values CSV file. It's kind of like Excel. You could do a save as and make it CSV, but this file that has all of the entry numbers that you want to request a refund for. Right? Those refunds are consolidated by importer of record or by CF 4811 notify party designee, and that's a party that you've designated to receive the refunds on your behalf. Brokers, however, can batch multiple import of record numbers together on the entries that they have filed. Who can file? Bottom left, an importer of record can file, or the licensed customs broker, but it has to be the licensed broker that filed the actual entries themselves, because there's an attestation that you have to make when you're submitting your CAPE refund request, okay? Maximum number of entries is 9,999. No other party is authorized, but there are plenty of parties out there helping importers through this process, like us at Deleon Trade, like others. There's lawyers, there's consultants, all types of people that are helping, like Byte, for example, who's going to help you calculate what your refunds are going to be. But the actual filing has to be done by either the importer or by a licensed customs broker. Okay. On the top right, eligible entries. I didn't want to list everything, every single entry type. I think it's really good to look at excluded versus what's eligible. Eligible is all your unliquidated entries, but they have to have an IEEPA Chapter 99 HTS code. One of the questions, and I'm getting a ton of questions like, well, what if I took an exemption? What if I actually didn't pay any IEEPA duties? Do I include that on my CAPE declaration? Yes. Well, and then the question is, why, Cindy? I'm not asking for any money back. And it's because you want your ACE data to be correct, and you want customs to make a correction to your entry and take those IEEPA lines off of your entry. So I definitely would include those on the CAPE declaration. Then, as far as eligible entries go, liquidated entries are also fine, but they have to be less than 80 days, including the date of the CAPE filing. So if you're filing today, April 20th, very important day, I'm wearing green, and because, I just feel like it's power money color, since people are filing for refunds, I thought it would be appropriate. So any entry that has been liquidated within less than 80 days, including the day of the CAPE filing, that could also be included. Any entry that has a pending or extended or under review liquidation status also are included, and 80 CVD entries that are liquidated can also be included. I don't know if you have any, but if they're liquidated, they can be included. So what's excluded? And that's not excluded permanently, that's just excluded from phase one, right? There's going to be future phases. Any entry that's a duty deferral entry type, reconciliation, temporary import bond, drawback, as well as the underlying entries. So Recon has the type 09, but it also has the underlying entries. Drawback has its type 40 something, but it also has the underlying entries. So those are all the types of entries that need to be excluded. If you have an entry that is an open protest, can't go on CAPE phase one. 80 CVD entries that are pending liquidation can't go on CAPE phase one. Any liquidation entries that's liquidated more than 80 days can't go on phase one. So those are the things I want you to be very aware of. The trade community is fighting. You see that tip on the bottom that even if you've gotten 99% of your IEEPA duties back through drawback, it's out of scope for this phase of CAPE, but believe me, the trade community is up in arms and is really pushing CBP hard to get that other 1% back of unconstitutional duties, which you should. We all are fighting. So stay tuned for a future phase. Okay, you should know a lot of this already on ACH enrollment, automated clearinghouse, but it's mandatory, guys. CBP, even if you file that CAPE declaration, they're going to hold your money. So you need to make sure that your bank info. So what is up to date? What are some of the nuances of that? You want to sign up for your ACE portal account first, okay, and then you're going to enroll your electronic refunds in ACE. Make sure your routing number is correct in order for it to be processed. Each IOR, and then people are asking me, what about suffixes? Is it IOR at the base 9-digit, or is it including suffixes? It's including suffixes, requires separate enrollment and separate bank account uploads. You got to get them all correct and all updated. If you previously had refund enrollment via paper. That all was eliminated February 6th of this year. So you have to do this again. You have to make sure your ACH is updated in ACE post February 6th. And then as far as the notify party, this is a party that you have as an importer directed. You want your refunds to go to other than the importer. That party also then has to set up the bank account if that's who you want to get your refund, your broker in this case. So you have to make sure that the broker has to set up the ACH in the Cape portal as well. Okay. So on the top right, you definitely want to monitor your refunds. So you see number 3 there is monitor this ACE report called the Rev 613 report for any rejected refunds. If you do have a rejected refund, one of the things we tell people is make sure your trade account owner number 1 has completed its ACH enrollment. And if you still are getting rejections, but you have completed your ACH enrollment, here's an email address at CBP directly to the people who handle this type of issue. We've gotten a lot of questions, Anne, about non-resident importers, NRIs, okay? So if you are a non-resident importer or one of the importer numbers that you have compliance oversight for, or one of your clients, if you're a broker on the line, and I'm hugging you virtually, brokers out there, because I know you guys are going through a lot, and thank you for all you do for the trade community. Even if you are a non-resident importer and you don't have a US bank account, you still have to have an ACE portal set up. So you still have to have an ACE portal with updated trade account owner information in order to facilitate your refund. Now, here's what we believe to be a workaround for NRIs, okay? And that is to say, if the trade account owner for the NRI has its information up to date in ACE and you make a CAPE filing, you don't have a US bank account, your refund's going to get rejected, and that's okay. Once it gets rejected, then you can email this email address, revenue refunds at CBP. And what you want to do is you want to include proof that your refund status is in rejected status. And then you want to, at that point, tell them who is the third party that you want your refund to be rerouted through, like your new 4811 designation. And you include that information, make sure that third party has their ACH all up to date within their ACE portal. And that way your refund can get redirected without doing all the PSCs on every single underlying entry. So that's what we're being told is the workaround. Again, kind of summarized at the bottom for you in yellow. If you're a non-resident importer without a US bank account, your option is to get a US bank account and then upload that, or designate a US-based party via the ACE portal on the 4811, and then make sure they complete their ACH enrollment and then email revenue refunds at CBP to update that information, okay? So some of the things that we're learning already, if you're not connected to me on LinkedIn, feel free to connect with me. I have some posts going on and encouraging the trade community to help work through some of the error messages we're seeing in the CAPE filings. And I'm gonna, I'll probably, and once you go through your demo, I'll probably add that one screen to this PowerPoint presentation for the end. But I think some of the things that people need to be aware of is they want to decide who their CAPE importer of record is going to be, or the broker who's going to file your CAPE, and know how to batch the information. Please know that the declarations cannot be amended. So if you've missed an entry, it's going to require a new declaration. There's a lot of misconception around PSC. I'm going to break this down for everyone real simple. When you read the CSMS messages, it starts saying PSCs are prohibited for IEEPA refunds. So people are just like, oh, I can't file a PSC on that entry. No, you have to keep reading. It says PSCs are prohibited to request a refund of IEEPA duties. You cannot use a PSC for that purpose. But if you have a PSC that you need to file for some other issue, maybe your value is wrong. Maybe you got your 232 metal content value wrong. Maybe your classification is wrong. Whatever it is, maybe you took an exemption that you weren't entitled to. You do want to go ahead and file a PSC on whatever issue that you need to make your entry correct. Once you file that PSC, and even before CBP completely liquidates and closes it out, then you can include that entry on your CAPE declaration, okay? When you start filing the CAPE declaration, there's a box that you have to check. It's an attestation that says, I am attesting to the fact that these entries are accurate, that the classification is accurate, that the value is accurate, that all these things are accurate. So if you have known errors that require PSC, I don't think you can be checking that box. You want to file those PSCs before you request a refund through CAPE. Okay. No duplicate entry numbers. I hope that helps some of you out there with PSC confusion. The CF 5106, which is your importer identity, that email has to be in the importer of record's own ACE profile and not the broker's. If you've updated that with CBP, make sure you give them at least 24 hours for their systems to sync up. You can track your refunds with these ACE reports, a Rev 603 and a Rev 613s. Those are going to help you track your refunds. Your refunds will include interest, and you can expect your refunds within 60 to 90 days of your declaration being accepted, absent if customs decides to, do some type of review or additional auditing. So if that happens, then you might have a grouping of entries put on maybe a CF28 or maybe a CF29. I don't know, but they could put a grouping of entries in a compliance hold status. On the right are just some contact information for you, refund questions, general IEEPA inquiries. All this information is just there for your ease. So now let's say you have filed your CAPE declaration. What is CBP going to do? So they're going to do these validations. They're going to make sure that your file format is valid. You can't have a file that is empty. Your header row 1 literally has to say entry number. So you have to leave that as row 1. It has to be in a CSV format. If you don't know how to do that, it's just doing a save as from Excel and choosing CSV. Your entry number it must be 11 digits. It could have a dash or not. They don't care. Both will work. Remove duplicates. That entry CSV is entry summary level. It is not entry line numbers. It is entry summary at the header level. So you can't have any duplicates. Remove duplicates. The filer code, if a filer is filing the CAPE declaration, their filer code has to match the first 3 characters of the entry because that is the filer code. And then the importer of record has to be matching the entry. If you have to be the importer of record to request a refund for that entry, and the entry number has to be valid in an ACE. And then off to the right, entry summary status has to be in an accepted status. Control status must be in a CBP control. There has to be at least one IEEPA tariff code on that entry. The entry type can't be one of the excluded ones I mentioned on the last slide. The entry cannot be flagged for reconciliation. And CBP is not authorized to reliquidate any entries that are greater than 90 days. Here they include 80 days because they are giving themselves 10 days to be able to run their analysis and their checks and their validation to be able to process the refund. Okay, so if all of this is way too much for you and you're listening to me and going, my gosh, you know what I mean? That's why you have experts out there that are helping you with ACE data to understand. And you need to have all these fields of information in a modified ES003 report. And you tell me if I'm going too fast. I'm trying to meet the timeline.
Yeah,
Okay.
keep going. There are
Okay.
some questions that have come in, and then I have some questions for you as well. But keep going. Let's get through it, and then we'll open up for some questions.
Cool. And if at any point you want to chime in, either of you feel free to do so. Okay, so subsequent phases of CAPE. Remember, we're just in phase 1. There are going to be subsequent phases. I believe reconciliation will be phase 2. Entries that are on a drawback claim to get, all of your IEEPA back, entries covered by protests, all these different things, dumping. And then the big question is at the bottom, entries for which liquidation is final. And what does that mean? Customs might feel final is 90 days because that's the close of their re-liquidation cycle. We all know different. We know that liquidation isn't final until you've exhausted your 180-day protest period. So you definitely want to be keeping that in mind for protests. So that CAPE claim can return and accepted value, and that means all entries pass the validation process. You can have some of the entries accepted with one or more entries failing the validation process. CBP is going to give you a little link right within the CAPE portal. You're going to see like a blue link to a report, and then that report is going to list the entries that did fail the validation and were rejected, and it's going to give you a reason code. And on CBP's website, you don't even have to look at my LinkedIn page. On CBP's IEEPA frequently asked questions page is a table that has a lot of the error codes in there. And it's really all the validations that I just went over. If you left a recon entry in there, it's going to reject and it's going to say this entry is subject to a reconciliation flag. So you can't have it here. So as long as you are doing the validations yourself, you're not going to upset the system. So planning ahead, different liquidation statuses are going to be at issue for future phases. Any excluded entries, be very in tune with CBP communications as additional capabilities are developed. Right now, we can process phase one, but you want to keep your list of entries very close to you so you are ready to file future phases. I am not an attorney, but I will tell you, I did a presentation with a very prominent attorney in this space a couple weeks ago for a trade association, and he just discussed a lot of the confusion with the court cases. And basically, this is just a little bit of information for you to be aware of and to consider. If you have concerns here, please seek legal guidance. You should know that the Euronotions case is the main case now, that there was a court procedural order, that the next update is April 28th. And there are a lot of cases and a lot of questions on how do you preserve your rights, especially for entries that are finally liquidated. Should I be filing a CIT case? What happens to entries that are pre the SCOTUS decision or post the SCOTUS decision? These are all things that you have to be thinking about. The last note, God, I wish I could highlight it in red. CAPE, filing an entry on CAPE does not stop the liquidation clock. So if you haven't gotten your refund and all of a sudden you're getting close to that 180-day post-liquidation window, my recommendation is file a protest. This is just a little chart on, different timeline considerations. You can file CAPE on unliquidated, liquidated less than 80 days. You can file a protest if it's less than 180 days post-liquidation, but anything beyond that, you need to consider filing a Court of International Trade 1581I case. I think we talked a little bit about recon already, and just that the big issue with recon right now is CBP is collecting IEEPA duties in a value recon, which is crazy, right? Because they're unconstitutional, but they are. Lots of strategy going on in recon. I might do a webinar, Tarek, and just about recon because people are just up in arms about it. Or maybe I'll just post something on LinkedIn, but just be aware that there's a lot of strategy on the recon space. And then I already talked about PSCs and how they work with the CAPE declaration process. Here's my gift to you for what it's worth. These are all the CAPE resources and ACE portal. This is Cindy's, True Liberation Day gift on educate yourself to try to get your money. And then I'm going to turn it over to you, Ann, now, and then we can do Q&A at the end if you'd like, whatever you would like.
I think let's try to hit a few questions
Yeah.
here, Cindy, because they're piling up.
Yeah.
So from Elizabeth, the first one here, if you present the exclusion IEEPA entries, don't you open yourself up to further entry audits, i.e. 232 entries?
Sure. Like I said, when you file that CAPE declaration, you're checking a box, and I can put it up if you'd like it, but you're checking a box saying, I attest to the accuracy of these entries. So if you're going to file that CAPE declaration, you're going to have that comfort that your 232 declarations are correct. So, could you be opening yourself up? Yes. But I will tell you this, as a former CBP, pretty high ranking officer, if you have 232 metal content, that's a lower amount, and the non-metal content as a higher amount, that data is already in ACE. That data already shows your entry as presenting high risk, and CBP can target you whether you file the CAPE declaration or not. There's a lot of fear mongering going on in the trade consultant and legal community right now. And I just feel I don't want to do that, and I just really want everyone to get their refunds where they can, but your entries should be correct.
Thanks. Okay. Can someone sorry, missed one here. If type 11 entries are liquidated right away, can IEEPA refunds still be claimed for type 11 entries?
They can, as long as they're within that 80-day window. So they can't have been liquidated for more than 80 days. So you just take your entry date and say equals plus 80 days. And as long as that date is, not past April 20th of 2026, you can include it on your CAPE declaration.
Thanks. Okay. Can someone other than the broker file a 4811 to receive refunds?
I mean, that's a loaded question. So at the time of entry, you would have the 4811 on file with your broker. If you're trying to make that change now, I kind of went through that process in one of my slides. You're going to get those slides and hopefully it becomes more clear and it's in the CSMS messages. But you, the importer, are going to have to file the 4811 with customs to designate a broker to be able to get the refund on your behalf. Someone else cannot file that outside of you, the importer. That would be a disaster if someone could.
All right. The workaround you mentioned regarding the 48
NRI? Oh,
party,
48. Mm-hmm.
would that mean we could avoid having to do the PSCs to add the 4811 party for each?
Yes, that's what they're telling us. And a lot of people don't realize this because even we thought at the beginning you would have to file a PSC to add the notify party on every underlying entry. I have not seen this successful in practice yet because nobody has gotten actually their refund processed yet. It's just
Mhm.
April 20th today. But believe me, I will be posting about this stuff. And I'm going to be asking my followers. I've got like 12,000 trade followers to let me know if that worked successfully. But yes, that's the hope. No PSCs.
Let's just do a couple more here. Deferral type, does that mean FTZ consumptions?
No, no, duty deferrals are type 08 entry type. And FTZ for consumption are type 06. FTZ consumption entries are allowed as long as they don't have any of those other problems, right? It has to be in accepted status, it has to be in CBP control status, all those validation checks. But FTZ type 06, good to go, file away.
Okay. Let's just do one more here. If you submit multiple entries on one submission and one of them flags for additional details, will this hold up all the entries or just the one that is flagged?
CBP has said that if one of the entries or more are rejected, that they're going to continue with the CAPE process for all the other entries on the CAPE declaration, and then you'll have to just adjudicate the ones that were rejected separately.
Okay, cool. All right, let's just take a break from questions here. We'll hit the rest at the end. Thanks a lot, Cindy. That was great. All right, let's bounce over to Anne here, who will show you Byte real quick, taking the raw ES003, putting it through our ACE Analyzer tool, and then downloading the IEEPA submission document or submission CSV. Go ahead, Anne.
Awesome. Thanks for
I'll cover pricing at the end for how much it costs to use the tool.
perfect. And Cindy, thank you. And to everyone whose questions are still in there, we will get to them at the end. So don't worry. Let me just make sure haven't been logged out here. Okay. So I'll go ahead and share my screen. Okay. So, yeah, just jumping in here. I'll I'll first just walk through what Byte is doing, how we're doing things with the data, and I will show you the rules that we're applying to all of your data. So for some of you, bits of this may be a little bit repetitive. We went through our ACE Analyzer on a webinar a few weeks ago. I have gotten quite a few questions on it. So I will go ahead and walk through that process now. A few changes since the last time I showed this. We initially, when we set up our run new analysis up here in the corner, we had a very strict template that you had to use. That is now revised, so you can upload any ES003 with any fields in it. If you open up this little window right here, it does tell you what the required upload fields are. Just to say, these are the required fields specifically for the ES003 analysis. We will be updating this required fields later today, likely, because the required fields do change if you are going to be running that IEEPA analysis.
Sorry,
And
and we
yeah.
got one note here just asking if we could increase the font a bit. The
Oh,
font size. Is it fine?
yes.
And if we'll lose, yeah, that's a little bit.
That's 100. Sorry, I I keep mine pretty
Thank
small.
you.
All right. So, yeah, so just to keep going here, so you can click run analysis. You can download the template, or if you've already gone through the process of setting up your ES003 with the fields that you like in it, or the fields that you're familiar with, you can upload that directly here. Um, so I'll just put in test and drop my CSV and analyze the document. That then loads here, and you can see I have one in progress. You can navigate away. So if you're uploading huge documents here and they, might take a minute or two, you can navigate away from this page. As you can see, that didn't take very long in this case. So the CSV that I uploaded had about 1,300 lines in it. And if I open it up here, you can see that I now have 372 lines. And the reason for that is, as everyone I think on this call knows, when the ACE data comes out, it's stacked. And the first step of what Byte is doing is making that data horizontal. So instead of having your Chapter 99 HTS, it puts it all on one line. And this is really helpful, one, just to visualize and be able to spot check your data, also for audit purposes, which I know we touched on last time with you, Cindy, and you are so eloquent at explaining how they can use it that way. But you being able to kind of eyeball where 301s are applied and if China's the country of origin on those and other things like that, you can do really easily in that horizontal view. And I will um, show what that looks like here. So this is now my ES003, but now it is laid out horizontally here. So instead of, let me get there, instead of my HTS being stacked with other 99s, those are pushed out horizontally and grouped by tariff type as well. So here you can see all of your Section 301 tariffs, all of your 232s. And one of the export types, you can also export any potential byte discrepancies. And I'll walk through those flags in the platform, but I did want to just highlight that they do come out on this export as well. So looking back in the platform here, even before you get to the export, you can see that I have 825 findings on this document. So if I scroll down, you can see a lot of them here are extra fees. But here, if I open up this line item detail is what was actually imported on the ACE upload. And then here are the applied tariffs so that you don't have to kind of navigate back to your CSV. You can see what was applied and the duties that were applied. And then you see the flags and what was detected. On each of these, you can always mark it as cleared, and you can also remove the findings. If you look and you say, you know what, I know what I submitted is right, I'm going to remove these findings. You can remove that and mark it as cleared. And that way, you can use this as a kind of a workflow tool as well. So now my findings are cleared from here, And I now have one more in my cleared over here. You can also, if you want to look specifically at, everything that had a 301, you can apply that, and that filters down to just those transactions that had 301, and your value and duty all recalculate up at the top. So just some new features in there as you're looking through it. Really quickly, I'll go through some of the rules that are being applied in that ES003. So the different flags that were showing up there. I've broken them down into 4 categories. So we have general duty tariff discrepancies. So that's what we were just looking at: missing Chapter 99 codes, unexpected Chapter 99 codes, base duty discrepancies. If there are any missing fees, so MPF or HMF. The next category is more data structural anomalies. So for example, we said it like an orphaned tariff row. So if you have a Chapter 99, but then there's no base duty anywhere, that will be put out into a separate file for you. Or if there are duplicate base HTS, or if there are unrecognized Chapter 99 or Chapter 98 codes, all of those get pushed into a separate file. And then lastly, the 4th category are bite warnings. And if you're using the bulk tariff tool, you may recognize some of these. These are more flags around if the country of origin. Again, this is less likely on ACE unless you corrupted your data file or something when you were importing it, but an invalid country of origin or an invalid HTS code, and others that are related to the bulk tariff upload. So going back, just to reiterate, these are the flags that are showing up here after you do an ACE import. All right, so moving on a little bit, we also have the ability to generate this IEEPA report. This one that I'm showing here, if I click download, I'll open it up in here. This is not, I just want to be really clear on this part. As it stands in the application right now, this is not applying those validation rules that Cindy just walked through that CAPE is applying. This is pulling out all of the IEEPA codes from your ACE upload. And you can see here we have the entered HTS, the IEEPA code that was on that entry, and then calculating the duties paid and potential refund of those duties. So this is giving you a snapshot of your entry. It's, brought it from the 100 columns wide that it was before and is just focused really in on your IEEPA. That being said, again, later today, maybe tomorrow, we will be rolling out a tool that will allow you to apply those validation checks to your ACE, to your ES003 data. So again, Cindy just went through them. This is just a clip from the CSMS guidance from last week. So these are the validation rules that we will apply to your ES003 and then do that IEEPA calculation based on only the entries that are passed and accepted after these rules are applied. So as Cindy said, the CAPE upload template is really simple. It's just entry number here. So no additional columns, nothing there. What you can do if you export from Byte in this IEEPA refund format, this at least lets you get an eyeball of the duties that can be refunded. You can delete all of these other columns. That being said, you can see here there are duplicates because they were on multiple lines. So you will need to remove your duplicates as Cindy pointed out. So this is one way to get to that list of entry summary numbers really easily, but also just getting a little bit more information on the expected duties that will be refunded. Going back over to the platform, I think that about covers it, Tarek, unless there was something else that you can think of that I missed here.
No, I think that's good. We'll send a note out to all our customers when the we're gunning for tonight to get those checks done. We'll send that out. We'll send a note out to everyone when the audit controls are in place. Got a couple of questions here, and just for the analyzer
Mm-hmm.
before we go back to Cindy. Will the analyzer work if I have customized if I have customized columns in my ES003?
Yep, yeah, they will. So all of the data stays in the CSV. There won't be any calculations done on it, but it will be carried through to your export and will appear on your export.
Okay. Um, okay. Sorry if this isn't the forum for this. Don't worry, Stephen. All questions are good questions. Are there plans for the check tariffs to include which of the applicable metals apply in order to calculate the 15% exclusion?
Yeah, so we've gotten that request. I may reach out to you, Stephen, and we have a few other people that we're consulting with in terms of how we can incorporate that, just because there are duplicate, um, there are like multiple metals on certain lists. But yes, we are working to figure out how to incorporate that.
Thanks, Anne. And then based on the ES003, liquidation date isn't included. How are you considering liquidation date? Uh, I assume that's greater
Yeah.
than 80 days in your IEEPA.
Yep, so you can add the liquidation date to your ES003. Um, uh, there is a video that CBP put out. I can share it when we share resources that walks through, it's about 6 minutes, I think, that walks through how to edit your ES003. It's not the most intuitive, but this video does clarify how to do it, and you can include that on your report.
Oh, okay. Before we move back to Cindy, just real quick, how much does it cost to use Byte? I'll just go ahead and share my screen real quick. We have a credit process. So if you want to use the platform, you go into our analyzer module. That requires a pro business license. So it's $64 per user plus a credit pack. So the credit pack, for example, if you wanted to do 150,000 entries, it would be $6,750. If you wanted to do 1 million, it would be 18,000. If you wanted to do 5,000, it's $600. So, cents on the dollar, but this is how we cost on the platform. We're trying to be as transparent as possible. So yeah, any questions on pricing, please shoot us a note. As a heads up as well, anything in the platform can be visualized. We do need to set up your dashboards if you want that. But this is a nice way to show the C-suite what is going on with your data. So that's all I have on that. I'd be happy to share the pricing if anybody wants it. And with that, we'll move back to questions. Starting at the top here, Cindy, I think most of these are for you. If we file several declarations for the same IOR within one week, do they get individual refunds or are they lumped together?
I think that's a really good question. I don't know the answer yet. I don't think CBP has published the answer. Remember that the payments are going to be processed through the Department of Treasury. I
Okay,
would think that they're going to be lumped together if I had a guess, but I'm not sure.
cool. If I recall correctly, the court order indicated finally liquidated entries will be subject to refund as well. Is that correct?
Yes, but the definition of finally liquidated is being, argued right now. There's still a potential appeal process. So until we actually start seeing a CAPE process and phase open for those entries that are finally liquidated or protests where people have filed for IEEPA refunds being actually paid out, I'm not going to believe it till I see it.
Got it. Okay. What format do we have to follow to enter the entry numbers correctly to CSV? Do you have a visual example? I think Anne showed that.
Yeah, and just went through that CSV and CBP. When you go into the Cape portal and you go to start your declaration process, it'll have a button for you to press for a template. And so you can use that template and then just take your entry numbers and copy them, paste them. And that's really all you have to do. Just save that CSV and then upload that CSV.
Got it. Okay, cool. Awesome. Okay, if we are in process of amending entries for FDA data, can we proceed with filing CAPE declaration, or should we wait until entries are corrected?
I'm thinking that if you have an FDA issue, you're going to have some other type of entry validation issue. It's going to not be in CBP control. The entry might not be accepted yet because you have an open FDA warning or something like that. So I'm thinking that just by default, it's going to put you'd fail the entry validation process. So I would probably amend and make sure that your information is clean. But again, this is one where maybe consult legal counsel to see what the best strategy is.
Good. Thank you. Okay. Would us as a broker submitting the CAPE declarations as opposed to the importer themselves put us more in the line of fire in the event that CBP determines entry discrepancies and non-compliance? I feel like you've answered this one.
Yeah, everyone's talking about that, and brokers are starting to feel really uncomfortable with clicking that checkbox on the attestation. So all I'll say is make sure that you consult your qualifying licensed broker if you're a broker, and make sure that you guys are consulting your legal counsel. I've heard, Tariq, of some brokers just unilaterally requesting refunds on behalf of their importer clients, which I think is wild. So I just there really needs to be coordination. I don't know that importers should be doing that on behalf of their importers without their importers requesting them to do it.
Can China Section 301 25% non-refundable, but if other tariffs, i.e. 10% IEEPA on the same entry, will the entry be accepted and only the refundable amount refunded?
Yeah. Yeah. If you are paying both 301 and an IEEPA China tariff, you can just add that to the Cape Declaration and you're only going to get the refund of the IEEPA. You're not going to get a refund of the 301.
Okay, can you go over again, please, the workaround you mentioned regarding the 4811 Part D?
Yeah, maybe let me pull up that slide again if you don't mind. And and then I'll share my screen really quick. This in presentation mode.
Okay.
Okay. And share screen. Tell me when you're able to see my screen. Are you able to see it?
Yep.
Yes.
It should be the slide. Okay. So slide 6. Okay, great. So basically here on this slide, it is telling you that my notes as well. Here we go. I actually wrote some notes because I knew there would be questions about this. So what I'm trying to say here is that if a non-resident importer files the Cape Declaration and it's reviewed and approved by CBP, the payment is going to still be rejected if there is no ACH account loaded with a US bank. Okay. So in that instance, that refund has to be rerouted to a qualifying third party. Okay. So in that instance, the trade account owner to the ACE account. So again, the non-resident importer has to have its own ACE account. That trade account owner would contact CBP and request that the refund be rerouted to a third party. They would provide CBP at this email address proof that their refund was accepted and it was reviewed and approved, but that the refund itself, the payment got rejected because of this issue. And customs will work with you, hopefully, that's what they're telling us, to be able to reroute the refund to the third party contact and be able to remit that then to the importer. So at the bottom right again, contact the revenue refunds email address. Let them know that you are the TAO, that your CAPE was reviewed and approved. Indicate who you want your 4811 third party to be. And before you do that, make sure that that third party has its own ACH enrollment all set up. And that way you can avoid doing the PSCs on all the underlying entries. I hope that's helpful.
Thanks, Cindy. I got a couple of private DMs and for how to get into Byte, where the
Yeah.
link is, and then how to get to the analyzer. I think we skipped over that.
Yep, I sure did. I just went right into it. Let me go ahead and share my screen again. So our website is bytedata.io. You can visit it directly. We'll send that out. And you can start a free trial and click right there. If you already have an account, you can log in. It will bring you to a registration page here, new user, you can register, or you can log into your existing account. This is actually a great question because you need to, it's a little bit of a two-step process at the moment. So once you're in, you can purchase your subscription. There we go. So if you come down here to your account page right here, click account, you can go to the subscriptions page, and here's where you can build your plan. So you can choose which license you want to have. And then if you have any credit packs that you want to buy, you can select those there. I already have a subscription on this account, so oops. There should be a little manage my subscription bucket here. Not seeing it right now, but this is where you would access that.
And for the analyzers, you need the middle bucket.
Yes. So here we go. So if I pick to add on my analyzer, I'll pick a pro account, add 3 licenses there. Scrolling down, then I'll pick my analyzer credits, and then I can continue to checkout. And here I can then see my pro and my analyzer credits and continue there and enter my payment information.
Thanks. And then we've got the analyzers on the left.
Yes. After you've logged in or after you've purchased a license in your subscription, you can see up here on this account, I have no license listed here. So if you ever are having trouble accessing one of the tools, just double check up here. We've had some people like make duplicate teams and then they don't have a license. So it says no license here. You can come over to licenses and then you would select your license bucket here, and then you can assign and remove licenses. And now you can see on this account, I have a business license here. So that's just a little thing to keep in mind. Always check up here and see for your license type.
Thanks. And you don't need to contact us to use the tool or buy it. So that's one of the lovely things we try to do.
But we'd love to hear from you.
We love hearing from you. Okay, got a few more questions here. Hopefully we've got 5 minutes. So you talked about the workaround. Thank you. Is there any guidance where importer requests broker to file all refunds via importer ACE account?
I don't know that a broker can do that, right? Because if the importer has an account, they can authorize a broker to be on their importer account, but as a user, not as a trade account owner. And also for filing the CAPE declaration, I don't know that a broker wants to be going in and attesting to other broker entries and, all the accuracy of value classification, country of origin, and all these things. So I don't think that there is guidance out there because I don't think that is the intention of CBP.
Do you recommend protests on entries not included in phase one?
Oh, you guys. Okay, so listen carefully on this one. Carefully. Strategy. Talk to your lawyer about this, your consultant. But remember, protests are excluded from phase one. And I know your question is saying, do I file a protest on the stuff that's older than 80 days, not in phase one, right? If it were me, I'm not going to tell you what you should do. If it were me, I'm going to sit tight. I want to wait and see if phase two opens before my protest deadline happens. So if my protest deadline is going to come up and I don't have my money in my hot little hand, I'm filing a protest, right? But I'm probably going to wait at least like 1 week or 2 weeks before that protest deadline to give CBP a chance to open another phase. Because you know what a bunch of importers had to do? All these importers, they were getting guidance like protest everything. And so now they had to withdraw their protests on a bunch of stuff because it was eligible under phase one. So they had to withdraw those protests so that they could submit the CAPE declaration. So be strategic.
Cool. Thank you. All right, let's just do one more here. On CAPE as a broker, can we submit entry details of multiple clients under one file, or do we have to file per customer?
So CBP did say for brokers, you can mix importer of record numbers. You don't have to file them separately. You can. I don't know if you would want to. You might want to, I don't know if I'm a broker, I'm going to want to keep my filings separate. That's just my very audit precise organizational anal brain. But you know you have one too, Anne. So I'd
I would
probably
keep
file
them
them separate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have
But
4,102 unopened emails, so
Oh my
I'm
God.
not like you guys. Okay, so I think let's call it a day. Let's share contact info though. I know there's at least two folks who want your info, Cindy. Do you want to, how would
sure.
you like folks to contact you if they have additional questions?
Yeah, sure. Connect with me on LinkedIn. My email is just Cindy, CINDY, at deleontrade.com. It will be on the PowerPoint that I'm going to circulate at the end, all my contact information. I'll make sure that's on there. And guys, I really appreciate the invitation to participate, and I'm just really looking forward to continuing to collaborate with you guys and continue to just make Byte all that it can be. And I just love to see all the updates constantly. I'm just like, oh, new tools, new tools. So
Thanks, Cindy.
yeah,
It's been a
looking
pleasure.
forward.
And if we didn't say it before, Cindy has played a big part in helping us create the tools to determine, if they are doing the things they need to do. So we appreciate you and your team as well, and definitely appreciate your time today.
Thank you, everyone.
All
Thanks,
right.
Stay
Cindy.
strong out there. Hug your
Thanks.
brokers.
We'll send out a note, just another reminder, we'll send out a note with the recording, with Cindy's PowerPoint. And if you need it, let me know for pricing. Also, if you are going to use Byte, recommend waiting till tomorrow till we get the audit rules out. Okay, thanks everyone. Thanks for your time, and hope you have a lovely evening. Bye.
Bye.